There comes a moment in every man's life when he stops chasing, when he stops begging for attention, when he finally learns to detach. And ironically, that's often the moment she notices. She feels the shift in your energy. She realizes you no longer orbit around her. You no longer place her above your peace, and suddenly, she begins to wonder. This is not about games. This is about Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches us to value inner strength over external validation. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus never wrote about relationships directly, but their wisdom applies perfectly when it comes to attraction, loss, and emotional control. So let's break down what happens when she notices you don't care anymore and how the Stoic mindset helps you handle it with dignity and strength. She feels the loss of control when you cared too much. She held power. Your moods depended on her responses. But the moment you detach, that power is gone. Stoic lens, Epictetus said, "It is not events that disturb us, but our judgment about them." You stop judging her as the center of your world, and she feels the shift. Reaction: she may test you. She may try to get your attention back. The Stoic man stays calm, unmoved by emotional games. One of the most striking moments in relationships is when a man withdraws his attention, when he no longer chases, when he no longer overinvests, when his emotional world no longer revolves around her. That is the moment she begins to feel something she may not have expected: the loss of control. This is not about playing games. It is about a fundamental shift of energy. When you stop giving her the power to define your worth, the balance changes. And this shift is best understood through the lens of Stoicism, the ancient philosophy of self-mastery. Control thrives on your attention. When you care too much, you hand over your power. Every unanswered text, every small gesture, every reaction from her dictates your mood. She feels that, and unconsciously it gives her leverage. Stoic lens, Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Your reactions gave her control, not her actions. Modern example. Think of the man who waits anxiously for her reply, refreshing his phone every few minutes. His day rises and falls depending on her attention. This dependence hands her silent control. Practical application: take back your attention. Instead of waiting, focus on what you can control: your time, your purpose, your growth. When your focus shifts inward, her hold begins to slip. She realizes she no longer commands your emotions. When you detach, she notices your emotional independence. You're not easily shaken by her silence, her delay, or her shifting moods. This unsettles her, because once she could trigger you instantly. Stoic lens. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. By reclaiming your emotional power, you free yourself from her control. Modern example. If she ignores a message and you stay calm, she feels the difference. If she tries to provoke jealousy but you remain steady, she senses your detachment. The balance has shifted. Practical application. Practice emotional discipline. Pause before reacting. Ask yourself, is this within my control or not? That single question weakens her grip on your emotions. The shift from neediness to independence. Neediness gives her power. Independence removes it. When you no longer need her to validate you, she feels her influence weaken. Stoic lens. Seneca once wrote, "He is most powerful who has power over himself." Your independence is not just freedom, it is strength. Modern example. Before, you would cancel your plans just to see her. Now you keep your commitments, pursue your goals, and let her fit into your life instead of abandoning it for her. That's when she notices the control slipping. Practical application. Build a life outside of her. Prioritize your fitness, your friendships, your work, your passions. The more grounded you are in your own world, the less anyone can control you. She tests to regain control. When she feels the loss of control, she may test you, subtly or directly. She might withhold attention, provoke emotional reactions, or try to lure you back into old patterns. Stoic lens, Epictetus advised, if you wish to be improved, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. In other words, don't react to her tests. Appear unmoved even if she thinks you're cold. This is the mark of strength. Modern example. She may suddenly act distant to see if you'll chase. Or she might bring up another man to gauge your reaction. If you stay calm, polite, and unbothered, her test fails and her realization deepens. Practical application. Respond with calm detachment. Don't argue, don't beg, don't compete. A Stoic man knows that silence and composure often speak louder than words. She begins to respect what she cannot control. Ultimately, when she realizes she cannot control you, a paradox happens. Respect often replaces control. People may not admit it, but they respect what they cannot bend. Stoic lens, Marcus Aurelius observed, waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. By living with principle, self-control, and direction, you naturally earn respect not by demanding it, but by embodying it. Modern example. At first, she might be frustrated that you no longer chase, but with time she notices something deeper. You are consistent, disciplined, and free. That is when admiration and sometimes attraction grows. Practical application. Seek respect, not control. Live with virtue and integrity. Whether she notices or not is secondary. The true prize is your freedom. Final reflection. When she feels the loss of control, it's not about her. It's about you. It's about the day you stopped letting your emotions be dictated by external forces. It's about when you chose self-mastery over neediness, freedom over attachment. The Stoic mindset teaches us, you cannot control others, but you can always control yourself. And when you do, the world, including her, responds differently. So remember, the real victory is not when she notices you don't care anymore. The real victory is when you genuinely no longer need to. She notices your energy is no longer chained. Your texts are lighter. Your presence is freer. You're not chasing validation. Instead, your energy is invested in yourself. Stoic lens, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." Your thoughts are now directed inward, not outward. Reaction, she sees your independence. Sometimes that independence reignites attraction. But even if it doesn't, your peace remains untouched. There is a powerful shift that happens the moment you stop clinging to someone's approval. You feel it first, and then eventually, she notices it too. When your energy is no longer chained to her words, her responses, or her attention, you move differently. You carry yourself with calmness instead of desperation, presence instead of anxiety. That shift is impossible to ignore. From a Stoic perspective, this is exactly what Epictetus, Seneca, and Marcus Aurelius taught. True freedom is not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself. And when you master yourself, others feel it. Let's break down the reasons why she notices this shift and why it changes everything. Your energy is no longer reactive. When you were chained, you reacted to everything. If she texted, your mood spiked. If she ignored you, your day was ruined. If she pulled away, you chased harder. That reactivity drained your energy and made you predictable. But once you adopt the Stoic mindset, you stop being reactive and start being steady. Stoic lens, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." By controlling your mind instead of her actions, you regain balance. She notices because your presence is no longer anxious, it's composed. Modern example. She doesn't reply to your message for hours. The old you would spiral. The Stoic you shrugs, focuses on your work, and continues your day. When she finally replies, you respond calmly, not desperately. That calmness is magnetic. You radiate presence. Instead of need, when your energy was chained, your presence was never fully there. You were half in the moment, half in your thoughts, constantly analyzing, overthinking, and hoping. When you break free, you are present. You listen, you laugh genuinely. You enjoy the moment without obsessing about what it means. Stoic lens. Marcus Aurelius advised himself daily to confine yourself to the present. The Stoic man lives fully in the moment, not enslaved by what might happen. Modern example. She notices that when you talk now, you aren't fishing for validation. You're engaged because you want to be, not because you need her approval. That shift in energy is felt immediately. Your self-worth is no longer external. Before, her attention defined your value. If she liked you, you felt high. If she ignored you, you felt worthless. That's what it means to have your energy chained to someone else. But when you embrace Stoicism, your worth comes from within. Your discipline, your integrity, your actions. Stoic lens, Epictetus taught, seek not the good in external things. Seek it in yourselves. A woman's reaction no longer defines you. Your character does. Modern example. When you stop begging for her attention and instead invest in your growth, fitness, learning, purpose, she notices. You're no longer orbiting around her. You've become your own center of gravity. Calmness replaces anxiety. A man chained to outcomes lives in constant anxiety. Does she like me? Will she leave me? What if I lose her? But a Stoic man accepts what is not in his control. He understands if she stays good. If she leaves, life goes on. His peace cannot be stolen. Stoic lens, Seneca said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Most of your fear was never real. It was your imagination enslaving you. Modern example. She notices now that you're calmer. You don't question her every move. You don't demand constant reassurance. This calmness doesn't push her away. It draws her closer. Your priorities shift toward purpose when you're chained. She is the priority above everything else. But when you free your energy, you return to your purpose, your career, your mission, your growth. Stoic lens. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. The Stoic man lives for his purpose, not for approval. Modern example. Instead of waiting by the phone, you're at the gym, building your business, learning new skills. She notices you're busy, not in a manipulative way, but because your life has meaning outside of her. Freedom creates attraction. Here's the paradox. When your energy is chained, she feels suffocated. When you let go, she feels drawn. Freedom is magnetic. Stoic lens. Epictetus said, no man is free who is not master of himself. Your freedom from neediness signals mastery. That's rare, and that rarity is attractive. Modern example. She senses that you're with her not because you need her, but because you choose her. That choice, free and independent, carries far more weight. Final reflection. When she notices your energy is no longer chained, everything changes. She sees your calmness, your presence, your purpose. She feels the difference between a man enslaved by her attention and a man free within himself. The Stoics taught us that the highest freedom is self-mastery. And when you embody that, you stop chasing validation and start living in truth. Whether she stays, comes closer, or walks away doesn't matter. What matters is this. You are no longer chained, and that is the greatest power a man can hold. Respect grows in distance. Ironically, the moment you stop caring excessively is when she begins to respect you more. Not because of manipulation, but because people naturally admire strength. Stoic lens. Seneca said, he who is brave is free. Your bravery in walking away and not clinging earns respect even from those who once took you for granted. Reaction, respect may bring her closer, or it may simply restore your dignity. Either way, the Stoic man doesn't chase respect. It comes as a byproduct of self-mastery. One of the paradoxes of human nature is that we often take for granted what is always available. Constant presence can breed comfort, but it can also breed complacency. Only in absence do people sometimes realize the weight of what they once had. This is why respect often grows in distance. When you pull back, when you stop overextending yourself, when you live with independence rather than dependency, suddenly, others view you differently. From a Stoic perspective, this isn't about manipulation or playing games. It's about self-mastery. It's about realizing that the highest form of respect doesn't come from demanding it. It comes from earning it through discipline, courage, and detachment. Let's break this down into core lessons with proper details. Familiarity without boundaries breeds disrespect. When you're always available, always chasing, or always bending over backwards, people can begin to devalue you. Familiarity without boundaries often leads to disrespect. Stoic lens. Epictetus taught that we should never place our happiness in someone else's hands. If you constantly seek approval, you signal that your worth depends on another person, and they will subconsciously lose respect for you. Modern example. A man who replies instantly to every message, cancels plans for her, and constantly proves himself may think he's showing love. In reality, he's showing lack of boundaries. Contrast this with the man who respects his own time and commitments. His value is felt more deeply because it isn't cheaply given. Distance creates contrast. When you step back, the absence creates space for reflection. People begin to notice what you brought into their life, your energy, your presence, your stability. Stoic lens. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself of the fleeting nature of life and relationships. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. By creating space, you allow others to feel the impermanence of your presence and therefore respect it more. Modern example. Think of someone you saw every single day at work or school. Over time, their presence became background noise. But when they left, suddenly you realized the impact they had. Distance sharpens perception. Respect is linked to self-control. A Stoic knows that true control lies within. When you stop clinging to others, you demonstrate mastery over your desires. That self-control naturally commands respect. Stoic lens. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." The bravery here is in walking away when necessary, not clinging when rejected, and not fearing loss. That inner strength is what inspires others to respect you. Modern example. Two men break up with the same woman. One keeps texting, pleading, and chasing. The other accepts the breakup with calm dignity and continues his life. Which one earns respect in the long run? Always the one who shows restraint. Independence is attractive. Distance often reveals independence. When you focus on your own goals, passions, and growth, people respect you more because they see you are not defined solely by them. Stoic lens. Epictetus urged his students to cultivate a life independent of external validation. If your peace depends on another person, you are enslaved to their moods. True independence is the mark of a Stoic, and independence commands respect. Modern example. A man who invests his time in fitness, work, or personal mastery instead of endlessly waiting for her texts shows through actions that his life is full and self-directed. That independence makes his presence more valuable and respected. Distance filters. Genuine connection. Sometimes people only appreciate you once there is space. Distance reveals who truly values you and who only enjoyed your constant availability. Stoic lens. Marcus Aurelius advised, if someone does not value you, let them go. It is better to be respected by a few than to be used by many. Stoics believed in quality over quantity in relationships. Modern example. If you step back and she reaches out, it shows she genuinely values you. If she doesn't, it's clarity, not loss. Either way, distance reveals truth. Respect built on silence, not noise. Constant explanations, arguments, or attempts to prove yourself weaken respect. Sometimes silence and distance communicate more strength than words ever could. Stoic lens. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." Respect doesn't grow from speeches. It grows from action, composure, and discipline. Modern example. After a conflict, instead of flooding her with long texts defending yourself, you step back in silence. That distance and composure often speak louder, commanding respect far more than desperate explanations. Final reflection. Respect grows in distance not because you manipulate or withdraw affection, but because distance highlights value, independence, and self-control. A Stoic doesn't chase respect. He earns it by living aligned with virtue, by controlling what is his, and by accepting what is not. When you stop being overly available, when you step back to focus on your growth, when you live without fear of losing someone, you transform. And whether or not they return, you've already gained something far greater, self-respect. And in the end, all other respect flows from there. Your value increases, scarcity creates value. When you cared too much, your presence was cheapened. When you step back, when you stop overgiving, suddenly your worth becomes clear. Stoic lens. Epictetus reminded us, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. Let go of the need to look desirable and focus on inner strength. Your true value shines. Reaction. She notices your glow, your growth, your strength. But the Stoic doesn't live for her notice. He lives for alignment with virtue. When you stop over-investing, stop begging for attention, and stop centering your worth around someone else, something profound happens. Your value rises. Not because you are playing hard to get, but because you are rediscovering the timeless Stoic truth that self-mastery is more attractive than dependence. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, did not speak in terms of dating strategies, but their wisdom shines a clear light on why value grows when you detach. Let's break this down in detail. Scarcity creates appreciation. When something is overly available, people tend to take it for granted. But when something becomes scarce, its value is recognized. Stoic lens. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You will not value yourself sufficiently unless you value your time. By withdrawing your excessive attention, you communicate silently that your time and energy are precious." Modern example. If you were once always texting, always available, always ready to do anything for her, your value felt cheap. But when you step back, when you're no longer endlessly available, she begins to notice the absence. Scarcity magnifies value. Practical application. Guard your time. Don't offer unlimited attention. Let people earn your presence. Self-respect becomes visible when you detach from needing someone's validation. You send a powerful signal. I respect myself enough not to beg for what isn't freely given. Stoic lens. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things." This means don't chase approval. Stand firm in your own worth, even if others misunderstand. Modern example. A man who begs for affection communicates, "I don't believe I deserve it." A man who respects himself communicates, "I am enough as I am." Which one do you think commands higher value in her eyes? Practical application. Before seeking anyone's approval, remind yourself, I am already worthy. Self-respect always precedes external respect. Confidence replaces desperation. Nothing lowers value faster than desperation. When you stop clinging and start living for yourself, confidence naturally takes its place. Stoic lens. Seneca said, "A man who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." Desperation is suffering in advance, imagining that without her, your life loses meaning. Stoicism rejects this mindset. Modern example. Picture two men. One constantly worries, "What if she leaves me?" The other trusts, "Whatever happens, I'll be fine." The confident man instantly holds more value. Practical application. Detach from outcomes. Before reaching out, ask yourself, am I acting from fear of losing or from confidence in who I am? Growth makes you irresistible. When you stop centering your energy on someone else, you naturally redirect it toward yourself. Your fitness, your career, your passions, your discipline. Growth raises your value not only in her eyes but in your own. Stoic lens. Marcus Aurelius often wrote reminders to himself to waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Your value doesn't rise through talk, it rises through action, discipline, and improvement. Modern example. Instead of spending nights anxiously waiting for a text back, you're in the gym building your business, or mastering a skill. Months later, when she sees you thriving, your value speaks for itself. Practical application. Turn withdrawal into fuel. Every moment you don't spend chasing is energy you can invest into self-growth. Independence attracts respect. When you care less about clinging, you reveal that your identity does not depend on anyone else. This independence is magnetic. Stoic lens. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." By not making your happiness conditional on another's attention, you prove yourself free. And freedom is deeply attractive. Modern example. If you used to need her for happiness, she held power. When you show that you can thrive alone, she begins to see you differently, not as someone dependent, but as someone to admire. Practical application. Practice being content in solitude. Learn to enjoy your own company. A man who is happy alone never comes across as needy. Final reflection. When you stop caring excessively, your value increases, not because you're manipulating, but because you're aligning with truth. Scarcity creates appreciation, self-respect becomes visible, confidence replaces desperation, growth makes you stronger, independence commands respect, and here's the ultimate Stoic paradox. When you stop chasing, you start attracting, because the strongest form of magnetism is not in needing others, it's in mastering yourself. You experience true freedom. Here's the deepest truth. When you don't care anymore, you're free. Free from attachment, from obsession, from emotional slavery. Stoic lens. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. By reclaiming your mind, you reclaim your freedom." Reaction. Whether she comes back or not, you win. Because freedom of the mind is the highest victory. There comes a moment in life when you finally stop caring about things you cannot control. The endless waiting for her reply, the overthinking of her actions, the constant need for approval, all of it falls away. And in that moment, something profound happens. You experience true freedom. This is the very essence of Stoicism. Freedom is not about controlling others or bending the world to your will. It's about mastering yourself, your mind, and your response to what life throws at you. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus all taught that freedom is internal. The world can take your possessions, your status, even your relationships, but it cannot take your mind unless you surrender it. Let's break down what this Stoic idea of true freedom means, how it applies to relationships, and how you can practice it in your daily life. Freedom is not external. Most people believe freedom comes from external things. Money, power, influence, or even having the love of the person they desire. But Stoicism turns this belief upside down. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that the only true freedom lies in mastering his own mind. Epictetus, who was born into slavery, understood this more than anyone. Even though his body was not free, his thoughts, judgments, and inner peace were untouchable. Modern example. A man constantly checks his phone waiting for a woman's text. His mood rises or falls based on her response. Is he free? No, he is enslaved by her attention. Another man sends a respectful message, puts his phone down, and continues with his day. His happiness is not tied to her reply. That man is free. The freedom of letting go. Freedom often begins where attachment ends. When you stop trying to control outcomes, whether in love, work, or life, you release yourself from invisible chains. Seneca once wrote, "He who is brave is free." Bravery is not just facing danger, it's facing the possibility of rejection, loss, or disappointment without letting it dominate you. Modern example. You confess your feelings to someone. If they accept, wonderful. If they reject, you thank them and move on without bitterness. That act of courage, without clinging to the result, is freedom. The shift from needing to choosing. A Stoic man doesn't need. He chooses. That's the difference. Needing someone's approval enslaves you. Choosing to share your life while being content without it empowers you. Historical context. Epictetus taught his students not to desire what they could not control. If you live only for external desires, you will always be restless. But if you live by virtue, wisdom, and strength, you will always have enough. Modern example. Instead of thinking, I need her to validate me, you think, I choose to share my time with her if she values me back. That subtle shift changes everything. Freedom in relationships. Freedom doesn't mean detachment in the cold sense. It means you are no longer a prisoner of fear. Fear of losing her, fear of being alone, fear of rejection. When you let go of those fears, you stop acting out of desperation. You stop overthinking. You become calm, centered, and authentic. That authenticity itself is magnetic. Modern example. When she notices you don't care anymore, not in the sense of apathy, but in the sense of non-attachment, she feels your energy shift. You no longer beg, you no longer chase. And paradoxically, that's when she often becomes more curious, more attracted. But even if she doesn't, you remain whole. The highest form of power. The Stoics believe that mastering your mind is the highest form of power. Empires rise and fall, relationships come and go, wealth is gained and lost. But a man who rules himself is never defeated. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man on earth as Roman emperor, constantly reminded himself that true power is not found in armies or politics, but in governing his own mind. Modern example. If she pulls away, you don't panic. If she shows interest, you don't lose yourself in fantasy. You stay steady because your peace does not depend on her actions. That steadiness is real strength. Practical steps to experience true freedom. Daily reflection. Journal or meditate on what is in your control and what isn't. Detach from outcomes. When you act, do so because it aligns with your values, not because you crave approval. Discipline your mind. Practice gratitude, self-awareness, and mindfulness. Build independence. Focus on your health, purpose, and passion so your life is full whether someone stays or goes. Accept change. Remind yourself that loss is natural and growth often comes from letting go. Conclusion. True freedom is not found in controlling others, winning every heart, or bending fate to your desires. True freedom is found in controlling yourself, in letting go of what you cannot change, and in anchoring your happiness within. When you finally stop caring about what you can't control, you don't lose power. You gain it. That's when you experience what Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus called the highest form of freedom, the freedom of the mind. So the next time you find yourself waiting, hoping or worrying about how someone else feels, pause. Remind yourself, this is not mine to control. My peace is mine. My freedom is mine. And in that moment, you'll taste what the Stoics knew all along. Freedom isn't given to you. It's chosen by you. When she finally notices you don't care anymore, it can spark curiosity, respect, or even attraction. But the true reward is not her reaction, it's your transformation. The Stoic man doesn't detach to punish. He detaches to protect his peace, to reclaim his power, and to live aligned with virtue. So the next time she notices, smile inwardly, because you've already won the greatest battle, mastery of yourself.